everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gitte Mary and today we're gonna talk about eco-anxiety. I haven't actually talked a whole lot about it in like a dedicated video on my platform, but I have mentioned it here and there, and actually there is an entire chapter in my book that's soon coming out in English about eco-anxiety and how guilt doesn't plant trees, and we're going to talk about it. But I thought it could be pretty helpful to also make like a 10 steps or like 10 tips to deal with eco-anxiety whenever we're feeling it. So that's what we're going to talk about today. These are my personal tips, and some of them might work for you and some of them might be the complete opposite of what you need, because people are different. So I want you to remember that this is all based on my personal experiences of life, and you are very free to have different opinions of things that work for you that I might not be mentioning, you know? But before we get started, let's talk a little bit about what eco-anxiety is. Eco-anxiety is a type of anxiety that's triggered by environmental issues or environmental concerns. For me personally, one of the times I felt it the strongest was in the beginning of my journey, where I didn't feel like I had enough of an overview to know what the best course of action was in terms of my own personal consumption and sustainability. So I would go to the supermarket and look at different products and just be completely blanking as to what would be the best option for me to buy. Anxiety this way often manifests itself as numbness or lack of ability to move or to do anything, or just lack of action. This is something I've experienced on my own body many times, and I have dealt with anxiety on and off throughout my 20s, as we all have. So it can be incredibly detrimental if you try to deny the fact that you're experiencing anxiety. Try to accept it and move forward from there. If you don't know what you're feeling, you also don't know how to fix it. So it is an incredibly important tool to be able to accept that this is what you're going through. And you know, acceptance can also be not only accepting that you are feeling anxious right now, but there is also the acceptance of the situation that we are all in right now. Accepting climate change, accepting environmental changes, and accepting the issues that we see today. And of course, how to accept or how to get out of this feeling. Different things works for different people. One of the things that I've found really helpful for me, depending on what has triggered my anxiety, because sometimes what triggers my anxiety is feeling incredibly small, feeling completely unimportant and unessential and not able to do anything because I'm just small and unimportant. And whenever I feel like that, I read quantum physics, because then everything is small and it gives me a great perspective and also calms me down a whole lot. And if I'm feeling like everything is just so big and so scary and everything is bad, I read astrophysics. Because astrophysics is incredibly scary, but also marvelous and amazing. And whenever I feel anxious or sad or anything like that, I like to ponder about the fact that we are just living small, tiny humans on a rock that's storming through space at an incredible speed. And yet we know more about the vast infinite universe than we know about our own oceans, which compared to the infinite universe is just this teeny tiny drop of water. And on this huge space rock that we're just, you know, by the mercy of the universe still living on, there's a bathroom that's mine. Just whenever I think about space, or whenever I think about our planet and how miraculous it is that it's there in the first place, I stop feeling anxious, if you catch my drift, and I start feeling just thankful and grateful that I'm able to experience it and that I have been a part of human history, you know? This might not work for everybody, you know, studying quantum physics to relieve your anxiety, but that's how I deal. And Number 2, I ended up talking about this for a whole lot longer than I intended to. Number 2 is community. Find people to talk to. Community can be a lot of different things, of course, and some communities are online and some communities are also offline. Generally, just communicating, networking, talking to people. Sustainability communities are so vital, not only because of environmental activism, but also in terms of keeping people motivated, because it's so easy to experience burnout and to experience just loss of passion if you're really passionate, but then it's never reciprocated, or you're never challenged, or you're never, you know, encouraged, or any of these things. It's definitely one of the things that has made me able to keep doing zero waste, to keep doing veganism, to keep doing anti-plastic waste activism. All of this stuff I wouldn't have been able to do without a proper community, without some support, and without a network of like-minded souls. If you're experiencing eco-anxiety, I would suggest finding a green space. This is happening right now. This is something that you can do in that situation. Of course, we can't run into the forest every 15 minutes. We experience something bad inside because of our impending doom. But you know, finding a green space to calm down is still such an incredibly important tool, and I've used this a lot. Whenever I have felt either anxious or lost or just in any way, shape or form not myself, I climb a tree or I go swimming in a lake. Just try to be in contact with the elements. Feel grass or sand in between your toes and just, you know, breathe fresh air. This can be a park, obviously, if you live in a city or if you don't have access to a forest or a beach. But the more natural, the better. Whatever works for you, you know. But generally just finding a green space, lying down on a field or on just, you know, a lawn, just anything. Not that lawns are nature, and I'm gonna go into that in another video for sure. But now, moving your body is one of the best ways to combat anxiety. However, it's also the last thing you want to do when you're anxious. If you're feeling eco-anxiety, it's a really good idea to get your body moving. Either go for a run, go for a swim, go biking, take your bike to work, walk to work, do whatever you can to move your body, because whenever we move our bodies, whenever we use our bodies and we're active, our brain releases serotonin, and that serotonin directly combats anxiety. There's an eco aspect as well if you use your bike or if you walk to work or wherever you need to go rather than taking the bus or the car. Of course, it goes like walking, biking, public transportation, car, plane, cruise ship. If I'm feeling overwhelmed or anxious, I also like to make a list and to organize myself. That really calms me down and it makes me able to regain the overview, because a lot of the time my anxiety is triggered by feeling that I'm no longer in control, that I don't have an overview of what's going on. In the beginning of my journey, I made like 0 swap goal lists. I would focus on these 5 to 10 items on my list and make sure to do that. And they were small goals in the beginning and then they moved up to be bigger goals. So you can make a list of these are the 5 or 10 zero waste swaps I want to implement. Or it can also be these are 5-10 things I want to stop doing list. One thing that helps me immensely in terms of my own eco-anxiety and in my own just feeling like a balanced person within my sustainable lifestyle was not feeling responsible for other people's sustainable transition development. How do you know if you're subconsciously feeling responsible for other people's journeys? Well, do you go out of your way to comment on other people's actions and tell them how they could be more sustainable? Do you feel responsible for providing other people with eco swaps that they didn't ask for? Or are you constantly getting into arguments and fights and hostile conversations with people about sustainability? There is a chance that what you're really doing is that you're trying to be responsible for everyone else's journey and not just focusing on your own. I wish someone had told me this when I began my zero waste journey, because I was definitely feeling responsible for what other people were doing. And while there is a fine line, because of course it's okay to give tips or recommendations, but at one point mentally you can end up using more energy on other people than you're using on yourself. And that's not, You want to save your energy and become a badass, super cool eco warrior yourself, and that's a better way to help people. Also, manage your news feeds. No, wait, I'll rephrase that. Just manage all your social media. Just be mindful with social media in general. Unfollow creators and platforms that unconstructively make you feel like shit. Turn off notifications on your phone from both news platforms and social media accounts. I have done that and it's made such a huge improvement on my mental health. My phone never lights up with notifications ever. So if I have to learn something or if I want to know what's going on in the world, I have to actively find that information. And for me, that's just much more healthy than being bombarded constantly with stuff that I didn't ask for. There are some times where I'm in a mental space where I can read about environmental destruction and have it benefit me, and where I can use that energy and put it into my work and do good things with it. But then there are other times of the day or just in the week where if I read environmental news, I become incredibly depressed about it. So it's really a great tool that you're able to control when you're receiving information. I cannot cannot stress this enough. This is so important, okay? Lastly, I don't want to recommend anyone to only get their news from one source or only listen to like a few people that you 100% agree with, because that's not really a great way to form opinions. I don't think it's a good idea to only engage with people with whom you absolutely 100% agree and only get your news from one source. That's how misinformation is spread. Generally, I think a good way overall to combat a lot of anxiety is by focusing on small practical tasks at hand that are here in front of you, and then sort of tune out a lot of the other things that's happening that can just become noise for you. Just focus on being good at this one thing that you're doing, and when that feels good, then move on to the next thing. Now, seek out the positive. I cannot stress this enough. Of course, there's a balance to it, and you can be so positive that you go straight into denial, and we don't want that to happen. But whenever we're scared or anxious about big horrible things that's happening, seek out positive environmental news, because that's also out there. And usually a lot of bigger news platforms will focus on the bad stuff, because it's also incredibly important, but that also drives a lot of people to click on the articles and read them, because fear-mongering is definitely something that engages audiences. So definitely also seek out positive environmental news, because that can help you gain a lot of perspective. Again, this is something that I'm trying to do on my platform as well, also in terms of how we talk about environmental issues. Facts are the facts, and the facts won't change if you laugh a little bit, so you might as well do that. That's why I usually try to make jokes as well, and even in the videos, maybe especially in the videos that I feel like are the most serious, for instance the video about billionaires, because I think that's a deeply disturbing issue and I think we should all be very angry with them. I think it's the most important to make jokes and to make it easily digestible mentally for yourself, if you catch my drift. And if seeking out the positive doesn't work, you can always just send threats to Jeff Bezos. For legal reasons, this is a joke. But if there's something that definitely triggers eco-anxiety for me, it's the "we're all doomed and nothing matters" attitude. I can't use that for anything. Like, what do I do with that? Nothing. So believing that you're important, because you are, believing that what you do is important, which it is, matters a whole lot. My last tip is to get involved. Of course, if you're in the middle of battling eco-anxiety, getting involved can feel like that's a whole lot. And whenever I feel like that, I start out, or like I trigger my let's get started gene, by signing petitions, simply by reading up on what petitions to sign and where to support and where to show my voice and where people could use another name in the petition. Small, tiny things, literally, where you just have to use your email address and your name and go, I also do not like this pipeline. And that can be a tiny, small thing, but if everyone does it, again, that's gonna be really great. And for me personally, it's also a way of getting myself out of a rut. So once I've done that, I am able to, or often I am able to, do more or to learn more or to get more involved. And getting involved can mean many different things. It can be starting initiatives in your local neighborhood. It can be going into politics, which is incredibly important in terms of sustainability. It can be creating content online and helping other people with their journeys. So many different variations, but getting involved, but feeling like you're participating in the community is just really vital to how we feel like and what we achieve. I also think it's an important notion to keep in mind that sustainability is really dependent on people acting like a community and not only people acting like sole individuals. And then we each have our own little bubble and we just... Sustainability is incredibly dependent on people acting in a community and also people basing their actions on what's good for the community. And a community can of course be like a local neighborhood thing, but we're also in a community, planet Earth, you know, that's super cheesy, but nonetheless it's just true. And that was my 10 tips that I hoped you liked. I've left some different links down below if you want to read more about anxiety and specifically eco-anxiety and what people are at special risk of feeling anxious or depressed in relation to sustainability and environmentalism. So give that a go, and I hope that you really like this video, and leave me a comment down below and tell me, what do you do when you feel numb or anxious or depressed, and like how do you pull yourself out from it. I think a lot of people could really benefit from hearing different people's experiences and not just mine. So if you want to share, please do. That would be so amazing. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I hope that you did, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Take really good care of yourselves and your mental health. Until next time, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero-waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!